a widow, and still struggling. That was the sentence that had been whispered at the last family gathering, the one that followed me long after I left the room. This time, I knew it would be said out loud. I could almost hear it already. I still came. My name is Eleanor Whitmore. I am 56. The invitation arrived 3 weeks earlier. Stiff cardstock, formal wording. My late husband's family crest printed at the top as if it still belonged to me. Annual reunion. Same date, same place, as if nothing had changed, as if he had not been gone for 8 years. I left the envelope on the kitchen counter for days. I told myself I did not care, that I had learned to live without their glances, their careful pity, their quiet assumptions about what my life must look like now. But the truth was simpler. I stayed away because it hurt less. I chose clothes that would not invite comment. I chose silence the same way. Not because I had nothing to say, but because explaining myself had never made them listen. I went because my son asked me to. Because my husband's name was still on the family tree. Because some doors, once opened, are harder to keep closed. When I walked into the reunion hall, I did not look for a seat of honor. I took the one no one had saved. I step into the room and pause just long enough to be noticed. Conversations don't stop, but they thin around me. Like a current deciding whether I'm worth flowing toward. I recognize the pattern. It's the same one every year, Eleanor, my sister-in-law says, smiling without warmth. You made it. I said I would. I reply, well, she adds, eyes flicking to my coat. That's nice. At the long table, seats are claimed by handbags and folded jackets. Names are called across the room, greetings loud and confident. I wait. No one moves a chair for me. I take the one at the end. Close enough to hear everything, far enough to be excluded. My promotion finally went through. A cousin announces, corner office, someone asks. Of course, he says. Laughter follows. Across from me, my daughter-in-law, Vanessa, adjusts her bracelet so it catches the light. She doesn't look at me at first. She speaks to the group beside her instead. We almost didn't recognize you, Eleanor, she says lightly. You're very comfortable. I am. I say, that must be nice. She replies, the word stretching thin. My son's chair is empty. Someone notices and leans closer to her. He's running late, Vanessa says. Work never waits. Her hand rests where his should be. Possessive. Certain. She glances at me then. Quick and measuring. As if checking a fact she already believes. I lower my gaze to my lap and smooth the fabric of my skirt. Silence settles around me. Not awkward enough for anyone to fix. I sit with it, familiar and steady, and let them keep talking. Vanessa's voice cuts through the table like a glass tapping for attention. Well, she says, smiling too broadly. I suppose life doesn't turn out the same for everyone. A few heads turn. Someone chuckles, unsure. She looks directly at me now. I mean, being a widow is hard enough. She tilts her head, studying my coat, my shoes, but still struggling on top of that. Such a shame. The word lands. No one rushes to pick it up. My sister-in-law clears her throat. Vanessa. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Vanessa replies, light and careless. Family should be honest. A cousin lets out a short laugh, then looks away. Another suddenly finds her phone fascinating. Plates scrape. Glasses clink. No one meets my eyes. I keep my hands folded in my lap. I don't look down. I don't look at Vanessa. I breathe. She's always been independent. Someone offers weakly. Independent is one word, Vanessa says. I admire strength. I really do. But there's a difference between strength and pretending everything's fine. Her gaze flicks to the empty chair beside her. Especially when you're alone. I'm not pretending, I say quietly. Vanessa raises her brows. Oh, I said I'm fine. There's a pause. She waits for more. An explanation, numbers, confessions. When I don't give them, she smiles again. See, that's what I mean. Always so private. It makes people worry. I don't need worrying, I say. Across the table, my brother-in-law shifts. Let's change the subject. Why, Vanessa asks. It's a reunion. We talk about life, about where we are. She leans back, satisfied. The damage feels complete to her. I feel it too, sharp and exact. Not because of the words, but because no one contradicts them. Silence lines up beside her. Obedient, I reach for my glass, take a small sip, and set it down. My hand doesn't shake. I don't rush. I don't leave. Instead, I glance at my watch. Not to escape, to mark time. When Vanessa said widow, she said it like a conclusion, like the last line in a story already finished. They think loss is obvious. They think it shows itself in clothes worn too long, in a life that shrinks, in a woman who no longer has a man beside her to translate her worth. They think losing my husband meant losing direction, protection, relevance. Richard would have smiled at that. People confuse noise with meaning. He once told me it was late. One of those nights when sleep wouldn't come because we both knew time was running out. When things go quiet, they assume something's broken. He said it gently, not bitter. That was always him. After he died, everyone expected me to unravel. They waited for the moment I'd need saving. Offers came quickly. Advice came faster. You should move. You shouldn't be alone. You must be struggling. I learned early that grief makes people uncomfortable. They want it to behave, to follow a timeline, to justify their concern. When it doesn't, they invent explanations that make sense to them. She's keeping busy, they'd say. She hasn't moved on. They'd whisper, she must be lonely. Lonely wasn't the word. Quiet was. I missed Richard every day. I still do. But missing someone isn't the same as being undone by their absence. I carried him with me in smaller ways. The way I keep promises. The way I refuse to perform pain just to make others feel compassionate. You don't owe anyone your grief, he told me once. Long before illness made those words necessary. Some things are private because they're sacred. That's what they never understood. A voice pulls me back to the table. Eleanor. My sister-in-law says, softer than before. Are you sure you're all right? I look at her. I see concern now, mixed with confusion. I am, I say. She hesitates, then nods, retreating into her seat. The conversation moves on without me again, as if my answer solved something. They think I lost everything when I lost him. They think widowhood erased the life I built, the choices I made, the strength that came from loving deeply and surviving the end of it. What they don't see is what remained. I straighten my back, fold my hands, and let the table keep talking. I don't interrupt. I don't correct them. Some losses take things away. Others teach you exactly what's worth keeping. Someone across the table leans toward me, voice lowered in what she probably thinks is kindness. Eleanor, you know you can always ask if things get difficult. I know. I say, there's no shame in needing help. Another adds quickly, as if rehearsed. After everything you've been through, I nod once. I don't correct them. I don't say that difficulty and insufficiency are not the same thing. This is where people assume silence means agreement. Vanessa watches me closely. Some people just don't like talking about money, she says, or success. I like talking about things that last. I reply. She smiles, thin and practiced. Those usually come with numbers. I let that sit between us. Years ago, I would have answered. I would have explained that my life wasn't small just because it wasn't displayed, that my choices were intentional, that privacy wasn't failure. Every time I did, the same thing happened. They listened politely, then returned to their conclusions as if my words had never been spoken. Explaining takes energy. It asks you to reopen doors you closed for a reason. My brother-in-law shifts in his chair. Vanessa means well. I know. I say again, what I don't say is that people who truly mean well ask questions before they offer solutions. They listen before they label. They don't turn concern into performance. Vanessa lifts her glass. I just think transparency helps families, only when it's mutual. I say, her brow creases. She isn't used to resistance that doesn't raise its voice. I learned this habit slowly, after my husband died. Every explanation invited another opinion, another suggestion, another correction. Eventually, I stopped defending a life that didn't need defending. I stopped translating myself into terms they respected. Silence became a boundary, a way to see who spoke kindly when they thought I had nothing to offer, a way to understand who valued me without proof. The conversation drifts on without me. Promotions, renovations, vacations measured by distance and cost. I listen, not because I'm impressed, but because I'm paying attention. When I glance at my watch again, my hand is steady. I'm not waiting for approval. I'm waiting because I know when to speak and when not to. Vanessa is mid-sentence when I look down at my wrist. Honestly, she's saying some people just don't bounce back. I don't interrupt her. I don't sigh. I simply check the time. My sister-in-law notices. Are you waiting for someone? No, I say. Then, after a beat, not exactly. The room keeps moving around me. Glasses refill. A chair scrapes. Someone laughs too loudly at a story they've told before. Vanessa leans closer to the woman beside her. I just worry, she says, not lowering her voice. Being alone for so long can make people stuck. I raise my eyes to hers. I'm not stuck. She blinks. Surprised I spoke at all. That's good, she replies. Quick to recover. I'd hate to think. The doors at the far end of the room open and close again. A breeze of attention passes through, then settles. Not yet. I check my watch once more. My brother-in-law frowns. You're sure you're all right, I am, I say. I just like knowing where I am in the day. That part is true. Vanessa watches me now. Curiosity edging out certainty. She's sensing it. The way people do when the ground beneath a story starts to shift. I fold my hands together and wait. Time has always been on my side. The room shifts before anyone speaks. Conversations thin, then stop. The way they do when someone arrives who doesn't need to announce himself. I don't turn right away. I know that step. I've known it since he was a boy running down a hallway, late for dinner. Sorry I'm late. My son says, calm and unhurried. Traffic was worse than expected. Vanessa straightens instantly. You didn't say you were coming, she says. Half relief, half reproach. I said I'd try. He replies. His eyes move past her, already looking for me. When he reaches my side, he doesn't speak at first. He rests his hand lightly on the back of my chair, the same way his father used to. It's enough. You all right? He asks. Quietly. I am, I say. He studies my face for a second longer than necessary, then nods. Mom, he says, turning to the table. Sorry I missed the beginning. My brother-in-law clears his throat. We weren't sure you'd make it. I don't miss family things. My son replies evenly. Vanessa laughs. A little too quickly. We were just talking about how strong Eleanor's been. I know, he says. The word lands firm, not loud. He pulls out the chair beside me and sits, close enough that his shoulder brushes mine. It's deliberate. It says more than any explanation. A cousin leans forward. You drove all the way from the city. Yes, he says. I came straight from work. What line are you in now? Someone asks. He smiles politely. The same one. He doesn't elaborate. He doesn't need to. Vanessa watches us. Something uneasy settling in her expression. She's realizing this isn't a visit made out of obligation. It's a choice. My son leans toward me again. I told you I'd be here, he says. I look at him, and for the first time that evening, I smile. The interruption is quiet. A man I don't recognize steps just inside the doorway, scanning the room with practiced restraint. He's dressed simply, but nothing about him feels casual. His eyes settle on my son first, then move to me. Excuse me, he says. I'm sorry to interrupt. Vanessa turns, already irritated. We're in the middle of a family. He doesn't look at her. He walks toward our table, stops beside my chair, and inclines his head. Ma'am, he says. The word lands differently than anything spoken all evening. My son stands. This is David. He says. He works with me. David opens the leather folder he's been holding. I tried calling earlier. He says to me, I was told you'd be here. You found me. I reply, I did. He lowers his voice, but not enough to hide what matters. These need your review tonight. The board approved the revisions this afternoon. Vanessa's smile freezes. Revisions to what David glances at her, then back to me. The trust documents. He says, and the property transfer. My sister-in-law stiffens. What property? The Whitmore holdings. David replies, the ones Mrs. Whitmore oversees. He places the folder gently in front of me, like something that belongs there. I open it without hurry, pages neatly marked. My handwriting already familiar on the margins from earlier drafts. Vanessa's voice thins. I didn't realize you were involved in all that. I say. My brother-in-law leans forward. Since when? Since before Richard passed. I reply, and after. David adds, calm and precise. Mrs. Whitmore is the sole executor. Everything moves through her. Silence ripples outward. Vanessa looks from the folder to my son. You never said, she never asked. My son says, not sharp, just final. David clears his throat. There's also the matter of the sale proceeds, a little over $200 million. The funds are ready once you sign. Someone inhales sharply. Someone else drops a fork. Vanessa's hand tightens around her glass. You said you were fine, she whispers. I am. I reply. Her confidence drains in real time. Color fading from her face as she understands the difference between what she assumed and what existed all along. David closes the folder and slides a pen toward me. Whenever you're ready, ma'am, I pick it up. No one speaks. I sign. No one rushes to speak after I set the pen down. My brother-in-law shifts first. I didn't realize, he says, voice low. I know. I reply. Vanessa clears her throat. You could have told us, she says. The edge is gone now, replaced by something thin and defensive. You never asked. I say. That's not fair, she insists. We were just trying to understand. Understanding usually starts with listening. My son says. She turns to him. You let them think, I let them assume, he corrects. There's a difference. My sister-in-law presses her napkin to her lips. All these years, she murmurs. You thought what was convenient, I say gently. A cousin laughs once. Short and hollow. I guess appearances really fooled us. They usually do, I reply. Vanessa pushes her chair back slightly, creating space where certainty used to sit. I didn't mean to be cruel, she says. I believe you. I tell her, and I do. David closes his folder and steps away, his role finished. The room doesn't recover its rhythm. Conversations don't restart. Everyone is recalculating. measuring past words against present knowledge. Someone finally says, "I'm sorry." I nod. "Thank you. It's enough." Vanessa looks at me again, carefully this time. "You really are fine," she says. "I've always been," I reply. She has nothing left to add. She gathers her purse, her movement smaller now, and murmurs something about needing air. No one follows. My son remains beside me. Steady. He doesn't look triumphant. He looks protective. "You didn't have to come tonight," he says quietly. "I wanted to." I tell him. Around us, chairs scrape softly as people find reasons to stand, to refill glasses that don't need it, to busy their hands. No one meets my eyes the way they did before. The pity is gone. So is the confidence. What remains is something truer, uncomfortable, honest. I sit with it, calm and unmoved. I don't explain further. I don't soften the moment. Silence has already done the work. My son stands first. He doesn't ask. He simply offers his arm. "Ready," he says. "I am," I reply. We move toward the door together. Conversations stop again. But this time, no one reaches for us. No apologies chase us down. No explanations ask to be heard. I prefer it that way. Vanessa speaks once, softly, as we pass. "Eleanor, I'm sorry." I pause. I meet her eyes. I know, I say. It isn't forgiveness or rejection. It's a boundary, outside. My son exhales. "You handled that with more grace than they deserved." "I handled it the way your father taught me." I say. He smiles. He would have been proud. I know. We walk a few steps before he adds, "You don't owe anyone access to your life." I never did. I say, "I just forgot that for a while." On the drive home, we talk about ordinary things, dinner plans, his week, the small comforts that come after a long day. Power doesn't follow us into the car. Peace does. Later, as I set my bag down at home, I think about what tonight clarified. Money didn't correct their judgment. Titles didn't earn respect. Silence did its work because it held steady. Life lesson dignity isn't loud. It doesn't need proof. The moment you stop performing for approval, you discover what you actually value and what you're willing to protect. I chose quiet. I chose truth without explanation. I chose myself. If this story resonated with you, tap like, share it with someone who understands quiet strength, and subscribe for more stories about boundaries, dignity, and choosing peace. Some truths don't need to be announced. They only need to be lived.